Hello, hello, all those beautiful faces. It's Saturday night, and we are live here at Teaching Liberty. I have with me Elizabeth for our regular, what is it, bi-monthly? Is that what you call it, twice a month? Bi-monthly?
I think so.
Yeah, one of those.
Mhm.
Bi-monthly co-hosting situation. She also happens to be the sponsor of Teaching Liberty over at queenbeespharmacy.com. You can use code
Woohoo!
Teaching Liberty to get 15% off your entire order. And if you're around here, you know that I don't really have any sponsors or anything I really promote. And I only do this because Elizabeth is not just my friend, but somebody who makes really awesome products that I can vouch for. Because as you see, I don't have products from all my friends, and I have plenty of friends who make things, but Elizabeth, no offense, guys, no
No
offense.
offense, friends. No offense, friends.
So yeah, go over to queenbeespharmacy.com, check out what she has.
Mhm.
And also stay tuned because Monday, May 1st, we have a big announcement coming about some camping trips that we're hosting this year.
Oh, yeah. I forgot we were doing that May 1st.
Yes, that's going to be coming out. That's why we recorded this video before that, so we can make this announcement. But that's not what tonight is about. We've got trending news tonight. We've got trending news.
Right?
It's trending news, so of course it's going to be not so great stuff. We've got a shooting in Texas where apparently
I'm
5
like over here smiling. I'm sorry. I was like, I'm trying to have my best face on. I don't want to have that face on when you say that.
I know,
That's horrible.
including a child, and the last I saw, he was still on the run, but that was a few hours ago. So
So the shooter is still at large.
possibly we'll get the most updated story when we pull it up. But last I checked, he was, and a lot of the headlines, of course, are saying it's an AR styled weapon. So that's definitely an angle we're going to talk about, and
Right,
then
right, right.
from there we are going to go into this microchip video, which is
Oh,
trending super hard right now, especially on Instagram, but it's also over on Twitter. I've seen it,
right.
and it's it seems to be somebody from Australia saying that the Australian government is giving away free microchips in your arm. So we're going to look into that and see if that's a valid claim and all about this microchip stuff. And then we're going to round it off with talking about transgender stuff, because I literally have not had a conversation with a person in the last 2 weeks without the topic of transgender coming up. I don't know about
Right.
you. So we're going to get into all of that. Top story of the night, as I said, is unfortunately this shooting out in Texas. So we'll bring that up. I mean, I always like to check out Google News, uh,
Right.
because Google News is going to be kind of like that controlled narrative, right? It's going to be the top things that they want to make sure that you're seeing. And so I always think it's interesting to see what they want you to see. And this was the top story right when I went up there this morning, or it wasn't this morning, it was this afternoon, to find what we're going to talk about today on this show. And I do like that they kind of aggregate things from both sides. We have our Fox News headline, we have our CNN, our Washington Post. So you can kind of see a little bit of what both sides are trying to say about this. So we have from Fox News, suspect accused of killing 5 neighbors after request to stop firing rifle. So apparently this person was out firing their rifle. And then on the CNN, we have neighbors asked man to stop firing rifle outside. He then opened fire on them, killing 5 in Texas, sheriff says. So actually a very similar headline going on. Earlier, I was seeing a lot of stuff about AR-styled rifle. It's interesting how they update the headlines. Like it'll be the same article, but the headline keeps changing. Why don't we start off with the CNN article to see what the latest is? All right. So I guess that's the sheriff. So a gunman is still at large. So again, this was updated 5 hours ago. Actually, no, it was updated 8:31 p.m. So this was just updated. So apparently he is still at large after allegedly fatally shooting 5 people, including an 8-year-old in Cleveland, Texas, in a Cleveland, Texas home after a Friday night rampage that started with a noise complaint about gunfire, according to the San Jacinto, I think that's how you say it, County Sheriff's Office. The suspect, identified as 38-year-old Francisco Orpeza, was apparently shooting a rifle in his yard when neighbors asked him to stop because a baby was trying to sleep. The suspect then opened fire on the neighbors. Authorities found the victims on Friday night after receiving a harassment report around 11:30 p.m. The victims, they came over to the fence, said, "Hey, do you mind not shooting in the yard? We have a young baby and he's trying to sleep." The suspect, who had been drinking, responded, "I'll do what I want to do in my front yard." A doorbell camera at the home of the victims at some point captured the suspect approaching with his rifle. Multiple people were shot around the residence. Two female victims in the bedroom used their bodies to shield two young children who survived. They were trying to take care of them babies and keeping them babies alive. The victims were shot above the neck at close range, almost execution style. The deceased were identified and they list their names and their ages, all quite young. The oldest one is 31 years old and the youngest is 8. And so I guess
Very
Cleveland,
sad.
Texas is a little bit northeast of Houston.
Right. It's very, very sad. And I guess there's no motive, right? We have no, this is just a random.
Yeah, I mean, other than the guy, it sounds like the guy was drinking and just kind of out of control, not really in a great state of mind. Um, so here's some tweets, I guess, from it, and the tweets are the place where I was seeing a lot of the AR styled stuff. So that's also what they do on Google News, is they'll like round up some of the tweets that are big. So a man using an AR-15 style weapon shot his neighbors. I thought it was interesting though, because they didn't say that at all in this updated CNN article. So I'm wondering if this is something that they were saying at first and then it changed as it came
Right,
out. Let's see,
right.
Beto is saying the same thing. AR-15s are designed, a Texas man who was firing an AR style rifle. So I think I wonder why that line has changed.
I mean, you want my opinion, or are you
Yeah,
looking
go
for,
ahead.
is this, I mean, I think that anytime that there's a shooting, the headlines always change. It's always for removing guns. It's always a very hard topic because emotions are really high. Obviously, nobody wants to have innocent bystanders get harmed or killed, right? However, as a gun proponent, I think that these accidents and these crazy things are going to happen no matter what. Like, I don't know what the actual resolution is in these circumstances. I don't think removing um, the arms from citizens is a negotiable preventative.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's, again, people will compare gun statistics with other countries where guns aren't as readily
Sure.
available. And like, obviously, there's going to be less shootings. I'd be interested to compare crime statistics overall, violent crimes overall,
Well,
just a
what
more
about
broad.
what about all the crimes that happen against the countries that have no weapons from their own government because they can't protect themselves? Just like,
Right. There's all sorts of different factors. It's very easy to be like, oh, get rid of the guns. Well, you're not getting rid of guns for everybody. The government is still going to have guns. And now people are like, well, if you think you and your small rifle or your handgun is going to hold off the army, then, but I'm like, they're not sending the army to any individual's house, most likely. They're, going to send people to
right.
come inspect. And, I think if you look historically, there has not been a single completely successful war that has been won against a guerrilla style army, whether we're talking about Vietnam or Afghanistan. Now, they were of course devastating for those native populations, right? Nobody wants to be one of these Vietnamese who were on the other end of America's firepower, but America was never able to win that war. And same thing in Afghanistan, because when you have an armed populace fighting for their land, yeah, you're going to do a lot of devastation, but you're not going to take them out. And guns really are supposed to be that last defense. It's not something you go around using at the first sign of government overreach, right? So yeah, I'm going through another article here too from a local station, and I'm trying to see if is anything. It talks about a rifle, so it could just be that it was a rifle, and so everybody's like rifle AR-15, which is a
Right.
type of rifle, but there's so many different types of rifles, hunting weapons, or hunting rifles, and so many other things. So I am gonna guess that they kind of just jumped, oh, rifle AR-15, like let's get in the headlines real quick before the evidence comes out and we have to actually, correct what we put out.
Right.
So yes, it's always so sad to see these events. And
Well,
I
I
don't know
always
necessarily what is the right thing to do. Should you don't want to not report them nationally in the news because then it's like nobody cares. But at the same time, because guns is such a politically manipulated topic, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. In my neighborhood, a young boy just got killed with a BB gun. 8 years old and got shot in the head with a BB gun. I
Oh,
don't 8 years old walking home in the evening. I don't necessarily know what the whole, story is to that, but I mean, that's a BB gun, right?
right,
They're not supposed to be technically like lethal, right? I mean, I know that they can obviously we see that they can be,
right.
but I mean, there's got to be a line. There's got to be, I don't know where that line is, and I'm going to state this as a mother. God have like I have no clue what I would feel about the topic if I lost a child. So I'll just put that on the table because I don't ever want to know how I would feel, just to be clear, but I could leave that table open that I may feel differently.
Right. That is true. Personal experience does always
Right.
change your
Something.
perspective,
Right.
though I would say I think in general, government regulation just transfers the problem to somewhere that's not as obvious. And I
Right.
think that personal responsibility, parental responsibility is always the more desirable route to
Totally.
go. And
Totally.
so going on to individual responsibility and that relationship with the government, let's talk about this video that's trending about microchips in your arms. I guess I'll just pull up the video and we can watch it to begin with, and then we'll get into, is this video real? Is microchips in your arm real? What are the implications of these things and all that? So let me get this video up here. Uh, and oh, I need to, okay, I see. I have to share the sound, I have to do it this way. Boom. All right, so I put this up on my Instagram page. Maybe I can go to the original video so it gets big, but I don't know if I can. Maybe not. I'll just go like this. So I was just being funny and like reacting to the video.
Tap your wrist and bam!
Let's reload it. I put a microchip in my arm. All right, here we go.
And it's the best thing ever. This chip is a powerhouse. It's got everything I need: my credit card, my ID, my medical info, and even my keys. And when it's time for groceries, you just tap your wrist and bam! Transaction done. It's like magic. In a medical emergency, it can save my life. Experts can easily identify me and my medical history. I feel like a sci-fi character and I'm loving it. This amazing chip is totally free. That's right, no more digging into your pockets. And the best part, the surgery is quick. They'll give you a cookie afterwards.
Did she say we'll give you a cookie afterwards?
Yes.
I mean, I'm in.
You got me on the cookie, right? I mean, I thought I was being silly because I'm like sitting there with my phone and I have like a box of things I'm
Cookies?
eating, and
Are
like
you eating cookies?
I didn't have any cookies, so it's like a chocolate gluten-free cereal. I'm like on my phone, I'm like reading a book. I'm like, come on, like I can literally do all these things. I can go to the store and get a cookie. I can, access all these things on my phone, and I can maybe even just like put the technology down and read a book, you know?
Right.
So that's why I was just being silly here. That's over on my Instagram. You can follow me over there. But the one thing I actually always do right away when I see one of these videos that's trending, I say, what is the source of the video? And you can see this video had a TikTok like stamp on it, watermark on it.
Right.
And but there's nothing else other than that. I was trying to search online to see, like, okay, they said that this is a free thing. So is this a government sponsored program? I couldn't find any information about a current campaign going on in Australia or any other country, for that matter, that's like in the Western world that is right now offering people this deal. And so I think that's very important to understand. To me, this either seems like a silly video, like a parody video that went viral, or it's a planted video, right? It's a psyop. It's people trying to do programming, people trying to distract you, people trying to get you all riled up and, oh, this is my bias. Like, I know microchips are coming, so I'm going to be freaking out about this video. I told you so, this and that. And then on the other side of things, they're doing something that's way worse. But implants of microchips in your arm are totally a real thing. I don't know if you've seen this at all, Elizabeth, like about the microchips in your arm. There was like a story, it was like just before the pandemic, and it was like a company somewhere out in the Midwest that gave them to their employees. I don't know if you've heard anything else about these implanting chips.
So I don't know a lot about the implanting chips, but I know that they do this a lot with animals. That's like on the rage. And as a person that really cares about animals, I could see how it could be really beneficial when an animal gets lost. You can just scan a chip and you get the animal right back to its owner. In some cases, it even has the vet where it belongs and all of that, the town, the state. So like I see, like, I'm not for it for people. Okay, just to be clear. But I also can see how some people would be swayed for convenience. Because
people already are. It's
well, right, but we're a big convenience society.
Right.
Like, we're not living in just a material world anymore. We're living in a convenience world now. And everybody is looking for that convenience. And I mean, if people could, they probably wouldn't even talk anymore. They would just press a button and be like, yeah, tell that girl how I feel over there, and ask her if she wants to meet me for a milkshake that is going to squirt out and be freeze dried and maybe covered in bugs and chocolate. You know, like, that's the direction we're going in. And I don't know why people are just so quick to inject things in their body. And it to me, when we're talking about just anything, like, I don't know why people are okay just putting things in their body, whatever that entails. People are very quick,
right,
to just do it without even asking questions.
Exactly. And they, like I said, they've been doing it for a while. And I think it's interesting that this clip is claiming to be in Australia, because Australia is one of the first places where this thing kind of has taken off previously. There's this 2016 article that's like, Australians are embracing superhuman microchip technology. It may sound like a sci-fi, like just like the girl said in the, I feel like I'm in a sci-fi. But hundreds of Australians are turning themselves into superhumans who can do things with the wave of a hand. And I like how they're like marketing it as like, oh, you're a superhuman. Like, bro, I literally do the same thing with my phone that I don't have to put inside my body. Like, we can have a discussion about the phone and, you know, the negative effects about that. But to me, there is a clear line between the government being able to follow me around in this handheld device that I can choose to put down and having something always in my body. So this is what the article goes on to say. It may sound like sci-fi, but hundreds of Australians are true. Okay, we read that. Shanti Corporal from Sydney is at the center of phenomenon after having 2 implants inserted under her skin. She can now get to work and her car without carrying a card or keys. Oh my goodness, like so convenient. And her ultimate goal is to completely do away with her wallet. Let's see. You can set up your life so you never have to worry about a password or pins. It's the same technology as PayPass, so I'm hoping you'll be able to pay with things for it. With Opal, I guess that's the name of it, Opal. I wonder what that means. I'd be interested to see what that word means. You get a unique identification number that can be programmed into the chip. Any door with a swipe of a card, it can open your computer, your photocopier, loyalty card for shopping, and just another I'm sorry, loyalty cards for shops are just another thing for your wallet. And it's the size of a grain of rice. Wow, that's actually way smaller than I thought.
Yeah. I actually, next time you're over, I have one of my dogs is Microchip because she came from, we rescued her.
Uh-huh.
And she does have a microchip, and you can feel the little,
Mm.
the little, it is like a grain, but sometimes this is what happens. That the chips can move down into the body. Like, yeah. It's kind of how I feel. I don't know if this is too much information, but this is how I feel about IUDs. Like,
I had
I'm
one of
like,
those. That's what I
oh,
was thinking too.
I don't want to be too much, but that's how I feel personally. Like, I'm always like, oh, like I would feel so uncomfortable knowing something was inside of me that didn't belong. Like, I
Yeah.
don't
I
like
had that
I
thing
would
in the
just
arm. It was
I
like,
couldn't. I
yeah.
couldn't.
Well, so again, about convenience and all that, and I did it, and then I didn't get my period for 6 months, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't seem like
Right,
really
but you
good, but
did it for
also
convenience.
convenient, convenient not to have your period, right? And then
Yeah.
and then the reason I got it taken out was because the lack of convenience, because then after that, then I
Yeah.
was getting my period all the time, every other week, and I was like, okay, this just isn't gonna work for me. And when you get those things, they never really give you true informed consent. You're just sort of like, oh, I was looking at these other birth control options, and they're like, sure, you want that? Here you go, and they sign you up. They don't even really take the time to truly explain to you the process and all the drawbacks or anything like that. It's literally, I think going to a drug dealer and asking them if you can try whatever the new thing all the cool kids are doing. I think they might give you more warning than your doctor for the latest new drug on the market.
Because they don't
Pharmaceuticals.
really know. They don't really know.
I know, but either theoretically with your drug dealer, but it just seems like I mean, not all, I don't know. There's plenty of people that die from drug overdoses, and you hear these horror stories all the
But
time.
there are
This is
drug
this.
test kits out there. I know people use drug test kits, so you don't have to trust your drug dealer. You have a
Right.
drug test kit, so they should try to maybe make test kits with your own doctor. To I think there's a company that actually does measuring for and assesses risk of risk assessment with certain drugs and variables of drugs like cancer
Like a
drugs and
true third party.
yeah, like a true third party. I think it's called Cytosolve, I believe. And they do third party testing for yeah, if you and me needed a drug, say even a birth control, they would give you the statistics on which one would be. And I'm not advocating for birth control. We know that, right?
Right. But
I
it's
just
just
want
saying
for the
that
people watching.
right. Yeah,
Um,
I've been off for a year and a half. So
good for you. Good for
yeah.
you.
Um,
Yeah, and it's and it's more about just having full transparency. I think a lot of times, and I know I'm veering on a little thing, but I think a lot of times people aren't really sure what's going on within their bodies because they're not fully aware of
right.
all the synergistic effects
And
of
I
what.
think too, yeah, when for me, for the birth control, I just wasn't as in tune with my body, where I was in my cycle, how that related to my energy levels. It was very hard for me to read those things. Whereas now I know what my connection is between my mood and my cycle, my energy levels. I'm not getting cramps when I forgot to take my pill, right? I'm getting cramps when I'm about to ovulate or when I'm about to actually
What you're
yeah,
supposed to feel.
exactly.
Right.
And I just never realized how connected my energy levels were to my 28-day cycle. And now I totally can understand that. And I don't think before, I think that there was no connection between my cycle. It was just like this artificial interference from the pill. And I don't think I had too crazy of effects. Like, I know women who gained all sorts of weight and had all sorts of, depression or psychological issues. Thankfully, that it wasn't that serious for me, but you don't really know until you get off the pill and find your homeostasis.
Yeah.
But I think that story about the microchip and really all this stuff that we're talking about, your cycle and being in tune with your body, is really related to this next story that has to do with gender affirming care. And there's definitely a connection between the biomedicalization of our world and then this social trend of like gender not being this biological reality, as if you
Well,
can just make it up.
Well, I just also want to interject that it's across the board, though. It's not just with this topic. It's with everything we've just discussed tonight, actually.
That's true.
It's all you're seeing how easily influenced other people can be. And what we're talking about is and I know we just did another podcast right before this. They're kind of blending in here, but we have things that are marketing. People don't, and I think for people that are marketing gurus and marketing people, went to school for marketing, it's a lot easier to see when this is, like we just did a thing on organic versus non-GMO, and what it comes down to is money and the marketing. And they fully admit that 60% of these consumers of $40 billion that's how they sell these labels to you. And this is the same thing when we have gender care, gender affirming care, all of these things. There's big money in this. There's big money in this. So we're seeing a big, huge dialogue happening all over the place. Why? Because it's making money. It's making people lots and lots of money. And anytime there's lots and lots of money at risk, there's going to be sides pitted against each other. There's going to be fighting. There's going to be discussion. There's going to be legislation. We're going to see so much legislation coming on the table on these topics over the next couple of months. And we have seen this because there's so much money.
And so this is Montana.
Right. So many special interest groups supporting, not supporting. Right. And I'm going to keep a neutral. I'll be Switzerland on this topic for now, because I do want people to understand that we're putting out information. This is not about for or against at the moment. What we're doing.
I'm totally against this. I'm sorry.
I'm against it too. But I think that I don't want somebody watching this and being like, oh, these people hate me. Because I think we need to really draw the line there, because this isn't about hate. I think this is really more about transparency and really, we were just discussing the pill. I was put on the pill when I was a very young girl. I dealt with a lot of issues and I didn't know my body. I couldn't feel my body. I had a lot of stuff going on medically with my body. And I'm going to be very clear about this. Had all of this been going on during that time, my parents were not involved with my medical care. I was going for surgeries. I was put on tons and tons of drugs, opioids, antidepressants, Paxil, drugs upon drugs with no parental supervision or intervention. And I was 15, 16, 14, these ages, put on all of these drugs. And I can see a very similar pattern in this, that it took me away from myself. It took me away from who I was. I lost my teenage years. I definitely didn't know how to even handle my emotions because my hormones were so all over the place until I learned how to eat correctly for myself and all this. So how does this all intertwine? People are being influenced here just the way I was influenced, right?
And now it's next level because it's mainstreamed. It's not just a couple of outlier kids.
Big money.
And to your point though about how we are trying to stay neutral, or we're not trying to judge people for whatever they may be going through or however they may identify. I do think that there's an interesting twist to this story here in Montana, because they have a transgender lawmaker there, and she's being censured or silenced for basically being on the floor. So I do want to get to this aspect of it, because
Okay.
I actually don't think I agree with this part of what the Republicans are doing, but I definitely agree with this bill where they're banning affirming care for transgender minors. So I'll just give it a quick overview. There's also an interesting twist here because
Can you just go over, because I really try to stay out of all this language and
Yeah.
everything, but can we just go over, and maybe there's other people watching that they might not know, and I don't care if I sound
Yeah.
stupid, but gender affirming, just to be very clear, gender affirming is if I wanted to change my gender, I would go to a doctor, and they would affirm me medically, right? And then give me whatever I needed to take.
Right, like if you're saying,
medic
"Oh, I'm a male," then they'll stop your female hormones and they'll give
Okay.
you male hormones.
Okay.
And then essentially what I've been learning from the research is like once you kind of enter this funnel, it's like hormones and then top surgery, bottom surgery, and it's just sort of this funnel where they don't really stop and think and question.
That's a lot
Um,
of money in that. I'm just gonna
yeah,
keep
I
saying that's a
think
lot of,
that
you're talking a lot of money. We're talking drugs, we're talking surgeries.
yeah.
Plastic surgery is expensive.
Somebody
That's
was telling me that over somebody's lifetime, it's about $250,000, and
wow,
yeah,
wow,
and
wow.
that seemed a little low to me, I'm gonna be honest, but I think that, they have to choose some numbers to
Is that
use,
tax deductible
and
now?
yeah, well, I just saw an article about how, prisoners, like, I think the state of New Jersey has spent $250,000 on gender affirming care for prisoners. So it's like they're getting put in jail so that they can get the free care from the state or something like that. But let's
Oh,
let's go ahead and read this
okay.
article in Montana. So we have Republican Governor Greg Gianforte on Friday signed a bill to ban gender affirming medical treatments for transgender minors, making the state one of at least 11 that have passed similar laws this year.
So what
So
is that though? When they say minors, that's 18 and under.
I believe it's 18 and under,
I
which
agree with this. I agree with that.
I mean,
I don't think
yeah,
children should have I
right,
don't think children should have any life-altering treatments
right.
without.
I think it should really be like 24 or 25, to be honest, just because I think that A, the brain development, and then B, just to slow down the process of the surgery. Like, I still think that, again, I understand 18 is the legal age, so I would still like to see it later. But so this bill is sponsored by John Fuller. He is slated to, and it's slated to take effect October 1st. If
Oh,
enacted,
pretty
the new
soon.
law will prohibit healthcare providers from providing puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and a variety of surgeries to minors for the purposes of treating gender dysphoria. The bill makes exceptions for people receiving any of the listed services for the purposes of treating specific disorders of sex development, right? So I think that this would be referring to the very small group of intersex people, or I do know that there are people who really do need hormones because they were born with like their levels aren't necessarily great. I mean, if you get sick, they'll give you steroids sometimes, which are again related to
So
your
I'm wondering, are these doctors that are issuing these things, are they a new specialty type of doctor that is just surfaced? And I'm not trying to be
yeah, I don't have it.
sassy here.
No, I mean, I don't have it in front of me, the statistics, or
Right.
I have seen the map though, where it will compare gender clinics pre 2000, whatever the date is, 2005 or 2010.
Yeah,
And there's
yeah.
like one, two, three, like very few. And then it'll be like from 2020, and it's just like the map is dotted. And then also from the statistics of how many kids identified, it's increased like 1,000% or hundreds of
Right, right, right,
percentage,
right.
like something ridiculous
It's
where
a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. Do
and
you
they're also
think
seeing the contagion aspect of it, particularly for girls. So it's not that boys aren't doing this either. It's just that they don't have the social contagion aspect to it like girls do. So I would see this when I was in high school, but it was the gay thing. So I played ice hockey, which is like, it's kind of like a butchy sport. There's like definitely a
Mhm.
lot of girls who are actually gay, but this thing would happen where like one of the girls who was like more popular on the team or like one of the better players would be like, "Oh, I'm gay." And then like half the team or like 75% of the team be like, "Oh, I'm gay too." And then like everybody like makes out with each other for whatever a little bit.
And then it would die off. And
Yeah,
then
then it's like
I have to
that.
ask you, something though. I mean, are you in touch with any of these women or any of them, still in that lifestyle, or was that just a
No,
phase that they went through,
I
or
can't claim to be in touch with any of them. I would say
Mhm.
I do genuinely think, some of the girls were, gay,
Mhm.
and persisted to be, but many it would just, at the end of the season, it would kind of die out.
Well, how old was
We
the
were
age range?
14 to 8.
Oh,
Yeah, it
so
was high
you're
school.
still discovering who you are
Right.
and like figuring out who you are and
Yeah, my
you
friend
know.
told me when they were in middle school that they used to like practice kissing on each other, and it was like not a gay thing at all. It was just
Right.
like they would practice kissing for boys.
I
So
mean, me and my friends used to make out all the time for free beer when we were drinking in bars. So like you know, I'm married, I have a husband. I had no problem.
yeah, no, I
Wasn't
for sure. I think that female sexuality is much more fluid than male sexuality. I think that that's an evolutionary thing just for protection against, unwanted sexual activities. There's this
right.
study actually where they show like different animals
Mhm.
to women and men, and like it just takes a few tail feathers for like the juices to get going for
Yeah.
women, and like
Yeah.
men it like literally takes like it can be a variety of different things. It doesn't have to be actual humans. It can
Mhm.
be
Mhm.
cartoons and things like that. But women, their juices get going like their blood starts pumping real quick,
Mm.
versus men.
I don't know
So
about that. I feel like that's different. I feel like men's juices get flowing way more than women, and that's just like from just talking with other
no, but it's
married.
physiological. Like what they do is they put like these sensors all over them, and
Mhm.
the physiological responses from women are
Mhm.
much quicker than men's.
Really?
Yeah, now I think maybe what you're talking about is more of like the social play out of it. Like women
Maybe.
are going to be like more timid naturally, right? Like we only get one
Mhm.
egg a month. We got to protect those eggs
Right, right.
versus like men, they're like spread the seed. So I think
Right,
whereas
right.
like a woman, you might be like your biochemistry might get activated, but that
Right.
doesn't mean you're just like, "Oh, I got to go get that thing now." Whereas guys
Right,
like
right, right.
like
Guys are a
they
little
get
bit more.
activated and they're like, "I'm
Yeah,
at it," like
totally.
so,
That makes sense.
yeah, I wanna get into the other part of this story though, because oh, no, wait, actually, I wanna keep reading because there is something very interesting here about this Republican, governor that his son let's see.
Is his son,
His son is non-binary.
oh,
So, let's
you
see.
think that this dad is doing this to like, put a, what is that called?
I don't know. I mean, so let's check out the story that kinda covers this aspect of it. It says his son is one of the many lobbying against the trans bill, and I guess this is him here. He kind of just looks like a regular kid.
Yeah.
So David is 32. I guess he's 32.
Okay.
He looks like a young little baby face there.
Yeah, yeah.
He sat down in the governor's office on March 27th with a prepared statement about legislation affecting transgender Montanans. Hey dad, thanks for setting aside time to meet with me. It means a lot. There's a lot of important issues passing through legislature, and for my own sake, I've chosen primarily to focus primarily on transgender rights that would significantly directly affect a number of my friends. I would like
Okay,
to
okay,
make
hold on before you go. He's
yeah,
32. This
yeah,
bill was to stop getting children from getting
right.
their medical stuff without, until they're older. So how many friends is he friends with underage minors at 32 years old? I mean, I'm just asking because that's something that hits me right away. Who are his direct effect number of my friends? Who are your friends and where are their parents?
Yeah, I mean it I'm not saying that I don't know anybody who's under 18, but I wouldn't claim them as my friend. They're probably like a family friend's son or daughter, right?
You understand what I'm saying though?
Yeah.
Like from an outsider
No, it's
perspective,
weird.
it's
It's totally weird.
it's totally weird because does the bill, let me just ask something. Is the bill because we know bills can include lots and lots of things. Is this bill going to affect an adult from receiving,
It's a good question.
I don't know enough about the bill
It
to
did say
understand.
it said minors. It said
Right.
for children. It
Right.
said, let's see. It says he uses the pronouns he and they, and he's the governor's oldest son of 4. In an April 25th interview, he said he didn't know what kind of impact lobbying his father might have, but he felt strongly that he had to use his connection. I'm a constituent and your son. I felt an obligation. I would like to better. Okay, so his dad said, I want to better understand your concerns. Can we get together and talk about it?
Great.
Let's see. This kid, he was a resident with a background in computer science. He previously spoken publicly about his gender identity. Oh, he hasn't. So he hasn't previously spoken publicly about his gender identity or his relationship with his father. He said his family, including siblings who lives in other states, don't typically discuss politics. David said he first told his parents he was gay in 2020. The family never talked about it at length again. David said he closely tracked the bills. So that's interesting.
I feel like being gay though is way different than I feel like we're lumping lots of different categories into things. And I know that I've shared this with you before, but I grew up in New York City in Manhattan, and my neighbors were 2 gay men, lovers. They lived together. They were my babysitters. Okay. They built me my first dollhouse. Like they were my family. And so these are situations that I grew up seeing normality of men sharing beds. They were never sexual in front of me. There was never anything inappropriate in front of me. There was nothing, anything like that. And I just feel like and listen, I grew up in the city in the 80s. Like there was crazy stuff going on in Central Park during that time. Like I remember being a kid and being like, what's going on? But it was joyful. There was this positive, joyful energy. And I feel like this situation has risen this very angry, am I making sense on this topic?
No, yeah.
Like there's something different about, there's something different about, and I don't understand the pronouns. Why can't you just be gay? Why do you need to be he, they, them?
Right.
Why is there all of this?
Up a lot of flags for me that he's never publicly talked about this issue before, and that when he did talk to his parents, he was gay. So to me, it seems like somebody might have kind of gone up
paid him to
paid him, say, hey, your dad's doing this thing. And I think that this is actually happened. There's like the gay people who are able to be like, no, you know what, this TG, no, what is it? LGBTQ, this TQIA plus stuff, that's different from the LGB, right? Like the LGB is here, the TQIA is here. Some gay people kind of very clearly see that, whereas I do see other gay people struggling with that because it's hard to come out, right? It's hard to come out to your parents. And so they're thinking, okay, there's these transgender kids who are also going through the same experience. Like we need to be there for them. So I definitely think it can be a tough line for people who are feel very like they have a personal experience in this realm to traverse. But I want to bring it to this other aspect because this bill is coming through, but Montana actually has a transgender lawmaker, and there's a whole bunch of drama surrounding her. I'm gonna use the
So wait. Okay. Is it a man that became a woman?
Yes.
It's a man
that became a woman. So because she's now a woman, I'm saying she and her, but this is
what makes her a woman?
I know.
I just want to have like a normal discussion.
I know it's
because
weird.
what makes her, I clearly looks like a man.
with long hair.
With long hair. It looks like, maybe Marilyn Manson's like guitar player or something to me. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just saying what I feel.
That's so accurate.
And like, I'm just like, as a woman. Anyway, so and just to be clear, I do not think, even if I don't agree with it, I do not think that this person should be harassed, attacked, humiliated, or ostracized from being able to do their job that they were voted into office to be able to do, just to be clear about that. So I don't agree, but I'm not going to call this person or her or
okay, that's fine. I was just kind of doing it because that's just sort of what came out, I guess. And I was like, is it she, transgender, whatever. Anyway, so let's read this situation. We've got Montana Republican leaders will vote Wednesday. So this was a couple days ago on censuring or expelling lawmaker Zoe Zephyr, a transgender state representative who has been silenced in the House since last week after telling colleagues that if they voted for a bill to ban transgender affirming medical care for transgender children, they would have blood on their hands. And I think that there was also like a whole demonstration that was going on with this. So between that and between these people kind of protesting and interrupting what was going on in the House, they're saying, it interrupted the decorum of the session. And
sure, because things get heated. This person feels, they always claim that they're feeling attacked or whatever. But again, this is an adult that has already made the transition, and we're speaking on children and we're speaking on bills that are taking away parental consent for their children.
It seems like this is just more about procedural stuff in the House, like regardless of the issue, or if you feel that somebody's language was a bit edgy. I honestly don't think saying that you have blood on your hands is really all that edgy. I mean, I feel like that's a pretty regular political, like, we're gonna go out there, we're gonna go fight.
Maybe it was more in a way that like, it was kind of, it seems like was being a little bit more threatening in a way. We don't know. But I will say this. If you're there on the floor and you're there and you're the minority, right? And I hate saying this, but this person is the minority in the room, and you're fighting over something in a group of people that want this to pass, right? And if you're representing others, calling out and yelling out, I mean, we've both worked and moved and grooved in the state house. We know that's not the effective manner to get the work done. We know, and emotions run high, but you're being paid by your constituents to handle this in a way that doesn't get you dismissed off the floor or disciplinary action.
So,
not very ladylike. Not very ladylike.
So Montana's House Speaker canceled Tuesday's floor session without explanation, the latest development in a standoff over whether Montana Republicans will let the lawmaker speak unless she apologizes for her remarks last week on gender-affirming care bills. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it just seems a little bit petty.
Do we think that's like, even really true? I mean, how true is this?
So let's see. It says, much like the events in the Tennessee State House weeks ago, where I was a little bit confused over like the details of that situation and what got them kicked out. Republicans are doubling down. Okay, it says Zephyr's punishment has ignited a fire. Okay, no. Republicans are doubling down on their agenda of running roughshod over Montanans' rights to free expression, peaceful protest, and equal justice under the law.
But I don't agree with that.
Let's see. Zephyr's remarks and Republican response set off a chain of events that culminated in a rally outside the Capitol. So I think that the rally was actually separate. I don't know. I need to see the video of it. I wish there was a video here so that we could see exactly.
Oh, so people showed up. Let me just be clear. People showed up on her behalf.
After they decided that they weren't going to let her speak, then they came and they did this whole protest, and then they canceled the session because they wanted to make sure that they could maintain decorum and ensure safety. But
listen, well, let's talk about the safety. Can we talk about the safety?
I want to just talk about before that though, right? Before this whole rally and people coming, if Zephyr's remarks were simply that speaking out against the bill, it was said that if you vote this bill down. You have blood on your hands. Boo-hoo. You know, I disagree with the statement. Perhaps the language is a bit extreme, but I don't think that rises to the level of them being like, this person is never allowed to speak on the floor again when she is a duly elected representative. To
I mean,
me,
they can't do that. We both know
well,
that.
so no, they can, and I'm going to tell you how they do it. They do it because the person speaking has to be recognized by
Oh, right, by
the
the
person who
chair.
runs the session.
Yes,
So
yes,
the
yes.
chair can just not recognize her, and that's
Right.
essentially what they've decided to do. They
Okay.
voted to basically.
Well, I will say this though. I will say this, and I'm going to say this over and over again. Okay, this happens all the time with minorities. Okay, it happens to women all the time where we get silenced, and you want to be a woman. Welcome to our world. This is what happens. We get silenced all the time. So I don't feel bad. You want to play with the big girls. This is what happens.
Sure, that's a fair point. I just worry about when we do these things is, okay, what happens when the other side has the power?
No, I agree. I don't think it's okay. But again, I do believe in court decorum. I do believe in holding yourself accountable for how you're supposed to represent yourself in this. You are getting paid a lot of money to bite your tongue. I would not do well. You know what I'm saying? But and
they like weaponize civility politics though all the time. They're like, I'm saying this really messed up thing, but I'm doing it really nicely. And whereas you're speaking the truth. It's like, you know,
I get you. I hear you, but this is the
I don't want to
game.
be disrespectful. I know.
Don't hate the player, hate the game. This is how the game is played. And I agree with you. And I don't agree with how they're doing it, but I'm all for Republicans right now. So I'm also like, yeah, get it.
No, I know, but I just don't think that behavior is healthy. Like, it's like
I don't either, but I'm at the point too, like where like I feel like, you know, some unhealthy behavior in politics, like I mean, they do it with so many other things. And this is a big deal. We're protecting children. I think people forget, like, I'm not even going to get into the Democrat Republican side. It doesn't really matter. We're here to protect children. You and I, especially, that's what our whole goal is. We are mothers. We're here to protect children. And these bills are, in fact, here to protect children. They're here to protect children from making decisions before they are mentally and emotionally mature enough to make any sort of decision. Like, they don't understand the consequences of going in for surgery or taking pills or what the after effects or the cumulative effects can be. And the fact that they cannot comprehend what that could be for them in the future. Maybe there's reversal, maybe there's this, but there may be a whole slew of consequences, right? We don't know. And I don't think it's fair for any person, legislator, any sort of anybody to be pushing this on our children. Like, you want to do things as an adult, go do things as an adult. You want to pass legislation for adults and offer tax-free penises for people, go right ahead. However, when you come in and you come towards children, okay, and you've brainwashed children now to go with a fad, to go with, like, I mean, a couple years ago, the fad was suicide and cutting.
Right.
Okay.
And
I hate saying that. I hate saying that. But another fad was teenage girls getting pregnant. There was a whole school that purposely got pregnant, like a bunch of teenage girls that got pregnant. It was a fad. These things go on all the time. And I'm not saying, okay, being gay is a fad. Okay, just to be clear. And I'm not saying that people are not really feeling like an opposite sex, because I know there are people that really feel this way. So I don't want to discredit that. However, I do think that there's a lot of things that are involved with people feeling different in their bodies, which all stems from nutrition, diet, all of these things, because
I think it's just like that period of time too, right? You're going through this, your body's changing immensely. You're having huge biochemical changes because your hormones are all of a sudden being released so you can go through puberty. And I know, I mean, all girls, I think, have those weird, awkward phases. Boys, you know, so there's definitely a natural component to it that then obviously our lifestyles and our social structures can
play into the
further.
effects.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have my story coming out very soon. I'm writing a piece about my struggles with gender and sexuality and I was
Mhm.
being a tomboy and all of those things. And I could only imagine if when I was having that struggle of getting my period and not wanting to tell people and crying and hiding it, if there was this thing out there that, oh, you don't have to have your period. You can get it stopped. And if adults were encouraging these conversations instead of being like, okay, go. I was upset one day in class and I like had an outburst and the teacher basically just sent me to go to cool off on my own in the office, talk to a counselor and call my parents. Like literally the first thing that they had me do
Look at me, like,
was call my parents because
right.
that's what you do when a kid is having an issue at school outside. You call their parents. And it's like, I can only imagine today if they were like, oh, like, we don't have to tell your parents, or actually in our schools, they're not allowed to actively promise that. We did get that policy passed by our BOE,
Right,
but
right,
but we don't have a policy compelling to tell you. So you could
right.
tell them and say, and they don't have to promise to tell your parents, but they also don't have to go out and call them like they would have like literally 10 years ago, 5 years ago. If anything's wrong with your kid, the first thing that they do is call your parents. Now they're like, oh, we're going to keep this a secret from the parents. And like,
Right, which is just a very bizarre practice in itself. Like parents have a hard enough time. Like I have a teenager and she like likes to sneak chocolate when she's not supposed to, and it's like now I have to worry about like the school helping her to hide more things from me. Like I don't need that in my life. I don't need that type of pressure. No thank you, government. No thank you, doctors. And no thank you to any of the school people pushing any of this on children. Shame on you. Many times these people don't even have children. A lot of these people in the school systems, they don't even have children, and they take it upon themselves to push their ideologies on other people's children. Stay
right,
in your lane, because you definitely don't want to be
right,
messing
like,
with a mother like me in your world on that
you know,
topic.
exactly.
For real.
And that's nothing against people who don't have kids,
No, not at all. But
but
you are not, when you don't have children, you are not in the position to tell other people. Even when you have children, you're not in the position to ever tell another person how to raise their child. And it is not abuse. It is not child abuse. If I have a daughter and a teacher or a doctor or somebody is telling her that she could turn into a boy if she wanted to, and me wanting her to wait a little longer in life to make sure that's really something she wants to do, that's
that's
not
like
child abuse.
that's like the basic description of what a parent is supposed to do.
Right.
Child says, "Can I do this thing?" Parent says, "We'll talk about it later."
We'll
Child says,
talk
"Can we
about
do
it. We'll
this
talk
thing?"
about it.
Maybe, it's like the parent is always supposed to like slow down and help the
Yeah.
child think through things and be like, actually, I know that's how you want the world to be. It
Right.
seems very nice, but this is how the world is. And my
And
parents, they did a
I
great
also
job of
think
that.
like it's really like it's like delusional instant gratification, because it's like, oh, like you don't like this about yourself, let's just go
Here,
change it
real.
immediately. And it's
Yeah.
like, when and where are we teaching people to like, immerse yourself in who you are and really build that person up that you are? And instead it's like, no, we'll just chop some parts off and just like slap some stuff on, and now you're a new person, a new whole thing. But if you never work on that inside, no matter what kind of outsides you get, it's never going to be better. It might feel better for a little bit because it's new, it's novel, all of that. However, when you get back down and you're sitting alone by yourself, all that stuff still
Exactly. You
comes
can't
out.
hide. You can't hide. Definitely can't hide from God.
Yeah.
That's actually what my video is going to be about, coming out first thing tomorrow morning. I appreciate everybody that's checking in. I see a few people on the live here on YouTube and over on Rumble. Make sure you've liked this video. We are about to wrap up the stream, but the replay will still be up there. So take the link, send it to a friend, tell them to check it out, have some fun with Elizabeth and I. And we have some big announcements coming out May 1st about our camping trips this summer. But you can go over to Queen Bee's Pharmacy anytime and check out all her great products there. Use my code TeachingLiberty to save 15% off. And you want to leave the people with a good word, Elizabeth?
I mean, just you know, I don't know. I don't have just one word. I never have just one word.
All right, go over to her Instagram and you can hear
Check out
all
my
her words.
Instagram.
And
Save the bees. We didn't talk about saving the bees at
I know.
all.
We're
Please
gonna
check
talk
out
about
our
it.
Instagrams. If you're watching this, you're following this. We have been posting and sharing about a situation that's happening in Australia. Steph will have that podcast coming out soon, but just stay tuned for that, because there's a lot of things that are going on that, like, I know we're very distracted, but our food supply is under attack globally, guys, globally. So stay tuned for more information on that. And you follow us for more information on that. That's my word.
Awesome. All right. And you know how we end this. When you think free, you live free. So get out there, do that,
Free.
and stay beautiful.